Welcome to Endless Chit Chat, a new podcast featuring two college friends talking about the issues they face at this big age and all of the things that interest them from fashion, movies, music, books, art, and a little bit of politics. So join Verlinda Powell and Liana Yankson Wilcox as they step out of their respective comfort zones and bring life to the topics of the day with their unique voices to make Endless Chit Chat a must-listen event. If you want to know more about all things Endless Chit Chat, follow us on Instagram or subscribe to the Endless Chit Chat webpage. But most importantly, subscribe to the Endless Chit Chat podcast to stay up to date on the laughs, the anger, and the interesting exchanges on topics you want to hear clever takes on. Endless Chit Chat will be your new fave. Hey, Liana.
Hey, Verla.
How are you
Welcome
doing
back.
today? Yeah, welcome back.
I'm doing fine.
That's great. That's great. I think we were, looking at talking about, and you brought this up to me. I was like, oh, I heard of the book, but I hadn't really seen the movie. This Ends With Us.
Yes.
You had sent me a couple of things, and I was like, okay, let me check this out. You had asked me if I had read the book, and I hadn't, and I had then heard that it was about the topic of domestic violence, and October is generally Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and January is Anti-Stalking Awareness Month.
Okay.
So, I did go ahead and watch the movie, and I think it was interesting and stuff. I know there's a lot of controversy. I think everybody knows there's a lot of controversy about the individuals, the actors in the movie. But I thought the movie was a really interesting take on a domestic violence relationship and what different people see or how one may try to present a situation to others to not bring attention to themselves that they may be in an abusive situation, to protect their partner to some extent, to protect themselves. And how outsiders, whether they know you, how they will take a situation, or if they don't know you and how they take a situation. It was interesting. And I even heard, a discussion about the movie. I believe it was like the D.L. Hughley show, where, there's 3 separate incidents in the movie of domestic violence. And people were saying, well, was that really domestic violence or was it an accident? I think the first incident was the scene where you have him and her like talking and being light and stuff, and he's cooking
The kitchen,
and
right?
yeah, in the kitchen, and then like I think something's burning, and then he goes and unfortunately, it looks like he touches the pan with his hand. He's a surgeon, I believe. And she goes and, in reaction, goes to touch him and he flings his arm back because you do know that he then touched the hot pan. So, early in the movie, that's just left there and that's how it looks. And it's like, okay. But then
But when she not long after she encounters her ex-boyfriend in that restaurant?
That's
And then
interesting.
and the thing, because you mentioned how different people perceive what might be going on, and he saw her black eye, didn't he? Wasn't it from
Yes.
that
Yeah.
incident? And he
Yes.
immediately said, "What did he?"
Right.
Or something to the
Right.
effect of, "What did he do?" So, like for
Right.
him, for someone who was in a relationship with her,
Right.
but also the reveals, his own experience with her
Correct.
family. Yeah.
Because what comes out is
Later.
this is an old friend that after the incident in the kitchen, they go to this hot new restaurant. Come to find out, her old friend is owner, a chef of this hot new restaurant, and he's sees her eye and have some concern, like, wait, what's going on? And the movie is done well because there's flashbacks to her teenage years, and you see the issues with him and the issues he had with like his parent and homelessness. But
Mhm.
then you start to see the issues that start bubbling up with her family, even though they're a, important family in the community
Mhm.
because he's in law enforcement. Everything is not perfect in her family, and that there's issues between her parents. And some of the issues is that her dad abuses her mom. And so when he encounters her in his restaurant. He's happy to see her, but then he sees this black guy and he's like, "Wait, what's going on here?" Which leads to a whole big event between the person she's dating and him, and
Mhm.
her having to give more information about how she knows this person and so forth. And you can see the seeds of jealousy starts there for the person she's currently dating, for this person who she's not seen in years and was a friend slash boyfriend in high school. And so I think the way they played out just relationships and like an abusive relationship was very interesting. I don't quite remember what was the second incident between them, because the most
And I can't remember either.
because the most shocking slash challenging one was that last incident where, her phone goes off, or he's looking at her phone and finds the friend's number because she had
Right.
said nothing was going on between them, which it wasn't. And they get into an argument. There's pushing and shoving, and then they're on the stairwell and she falls down the stairs.
Yes.
So what's good about this movie is that, and neither one of us can remember the second incident, unfortunately.
I,
We
I feel like
like,
this. I don't know if the second incident had anything to do with her partner's fight and the former boyfriend's fight in the. It was like the back alley or something. I feel like that
at the bathroom and they
was
get
there.
kicked out of the restaurant.
Was there
But I
some?
know
Was there
I
a
can't.
time when, or maybe they encountered each other another time, and her Justin Baldoni character flew off the handle, and they got into a fight? Like,
Yeah, like there was some other second there was another incident, and unfortunately the neither one of us can remember it, but the third incident that they laid clear before you get to how they rounded this all out is that the third incident is that there's this blow up about, his info being in her phone and stuff,
mhm,
because he ended up looking at her phone. She, is, they get into an argument. There's, pushing and shoving, and then they end up on the stairwell, and then she falls down the stairs.
yes,
That's how it's left.
that's
And,
how it's,
the
yeah.
reason why in the discussion about this movie and then just the general topic of domestic violence is interesting is that they just leave everything there.
Well, they don't exactly show the abuse, literally. They sort of show the beginning and after. It's almost the way as the abuse, you might try to hide it in the retelling of it.
the the events are just kind of laid there, not as abuse or as anything else. So if you coming into this movie not knowing what it's about, at least two of the three definitely look like they could have been potentially accidents or
Yeah.
misfortunes or what have you. But
Mhm.
it's in when she's having their child and it's a daughter, and she's
Mhm.
talking about what do you want your daughter to know or be around, that then there's a retelling of each incident. And then they replay the incident, and you see it from what is truly her perspective. And you see it from the perspective of abuse. So
Mhm.
you don't get hit over the head from the beginning that this is an abusive relationship. You get tones of he's controlling and things like that, but you don't get full on this is a physically abusive relationship until the end. And she's retelling, and you see him backhand her in the face when he touches the hot pan. you see him push her down the stairs when she's trying to talk to him and so forth. And not just pushing her down the stairs, but because he's a doctor, he then picks her up, take her back to the apartment, put her in bed, and then she finally comes to, and he says, "Oh, you're okay."
Yeah, the first thing he
And
says
there's
is you're
no
okay.
and
And exact. Being a neurosurgeon, he should
correct,
be the first to know any kind of head injury. You want to check that out, especially if they're not conscious.
correct. And it's like, "Oh, you're okay,
You're okay.
you're
You're not.
okay." Yeah,
Yeah.
and stuff. And she's trying to get her bearings and figure out what happened and so forth. So I thought it was a good movie, and an interesting movie. I didn't, like I said, I wasn't one of the people that have read the book. I know a lot of people was, driven towards the movie because of the controversy, and the movie is on Netflix now, and it's worth checking out. I think it's worth checking out, not because of the controversy, but just because it was a well-made movie about that
Yeah, that
topic.
it's done, but I think it's a solid movie. I think it was
Yeah.
well directed, well acted, and the
Yeah.
way they chose to portray the abuse is compelling.
Right. And I think that obviously the book was done, and movie was done with the intention of bringing more attention to domestic violence, and also awareness to people, because one of the main character's friends is her partner's sister, and she
Mhm.
tells her, "I don't want you to go back to him." And I think even if we went back and rewatched the movie, in the relationship before you get to the end, you probably would see even more red flags, because when they first meet on the rooftop, she's sitting on the edge of the building on the rooftop smoking, and he's like, "Get down." And she's like, "No, I don't know you." He's like, "You're making me uncomfortable. You have to get down from there." And she's like, "No, I don't have to get." And so I think there were little red flags that
Well,
probably.
even you remember the story he tells her about the
Right.
patient is really about him and what happened with his brother.
Correct.
He ended up accidentally killing his brother. Hopefully, people watching this, listening to our podcast, we're revealing all the juicy
Oh yeah.
this movie. Perhaps you should have said, if you are planning to see it end with us, you shouldn't be listening now, but too late.
Right, right. And there should probably be a trigger warning just based off of what Liana said about what happened with the main character and one of his siblings.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would tell anybody, if this is a topic that may trigger you, the movie may not be the best for you to see, even though it is well done. If you're going to be triggered, it's probably best to not send yourself through that and everything. But I do think it was definitely trying to bring attention to a topic that at times and flows in the amount of attention it gets, or how seriously we as a society takes it. And so I think the author did, in her original work, did a good job, and also the director did a good job, and whoever did the script did a good job with this movie and stuff. It was a good movie. Obviously it's a difficult topic and so forth. It's a topic nonetheless that people still need to be aware of and understand that there is help out there. There's, like, organizations like the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They have an 800 number, and they also have, their hotline at www.thehotline.org. So that's a place that people who are looking for help for themselves or friends, family members can go to. Then you have the National Network to End Domestic Violence, which is www.nnedv.org.
Mhm.
And then you have the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, which is at www.ncadv.org. So there's help out there. Also, anybody that is facing such a situation also need to be careful about their technology and how they use technology and even searching for different organizations for help, because if it's not a secured technology or browser is not, erased, you could be putting your safety at risk. There are advocates in communities all over the nation that can help those that are facing abuse and seeking help. Local law enforcement are also of assistance. So, for those that either they are um, a victim of or who have friends or family members facing such situations and just trying to get information or help. There are a variety of organizations, but and still your safety is important first.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please check those resources out, people who are listening. And I do want to mention that Verlinda is an attorney and she has worked with many victims of domestic violence. That has actually been one of your specialties, right? Yeah, so she has a lot of resources. And I like what you said about the being careful with your security, and just wanted to also give you space. If you Is there any other things you've picked up on, or tips that are important, or what, or advice you could give to someone who is a friend or a family member of someone who thinks they are in a domestic violence situation?
Definitely I would never presume to give any legal advice, but I would, say that as a society in general, we all need to be mindful of people in need, and that these are serious situations and people have lost their lives or been seriously injured as a result of you know, uh domestic abuse. And whether it's domestic abuse, stalking, or sexual assault, all of those issues are issues that need more awareness in our society. And people need to know that there are different avenues for and resources for help. That's first and foremost. And if you are family and friends, it's difficult to see anybody going through anything that you love, but making sure that people understand that you are there for them, that you're a resource, a safe haven for them, and that you are supportive of them. It goes a long way, because people can become very isolated and feel very isolated, and they have no other options. And to have friends and family, even though it's a difficult situation to have to monitor, be a part of, know about, for people to know that there are people there that will help them is always a good thing. And so like I said, there's a lot of organizations that help victims of crime, and they are a wealth of resources and can always give additional information and support to victims and also their friends and families.
Okay, great. Yeah. So regardless of the controversy, I'm glad they decided to make this movie, and
Right.
I mean, all of this talk about the movie, in addition to the controversy, still adds, and I think it still brings attention to the domestic violent issues, and that's
Yeah,
always a thing.
and I would still say, obviously, there's a trigger warning, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
movie worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was done and well, and I think a lot of different people have seen this movie and have had discussions about this movie, partly because it started with more recently with the controversy that have looped people who didn't see the movie the first time around. And like I said, it's now on Netflix. That looped them back to watching the movie. And, like I said, and opening up discussions. I'm glad that the movie has not been fully lost in the controversy. So,
Mm-hmm.
but once again, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but really every month should be Awareness Month for, domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking.
So this coming October, touch back on maybe what's been going on with the conversation around domestic violence.
Right. And I think that would be important for, everybody to hear and spotlight domestic violence at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Well,
Verlinda.
no problem. Thank you, Liana. And again, thank you for listening to Endless Chit Chat. And you remember the time, well, we want you to check out Endless Chit Chat, be it on our webpage, Instagram, or subscribe to our podcast. Really, we want you to subscribe to the podcast. So, Endless
Please
Chit Chat,
subscribe.
make that your subscription today. Thanks.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.